Hello, and thank you so much for the kind introduction. My name is Charlene Brooks, and I am the Chief Executive of Belfast Healthy Cities. And today we're going to talk about urban wellness and how we can advance healthy transport and green city initiatives. So, we at Belfast Healthy Cities are part of the World Health Organization, the WHO European Healthy Cities Network. We're currently in phase seven, which takes us from 2019 to 2025. But Belfast has been one of the founding members of the European Healthy Cities Network, having been established in 1988, which was over 35 years ago. There are 1,400 cities and regions across 30 countries who benefit from the Healthy Cities Network as part of the WHO. And there are 76 designated cities, of which Belfast is one. Phase seven is built upon the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. And those are translated into what we call the six Ps. So you can see there on your screen, they are peace, planet, place, people, participation, and prosperity. So those really set the scene for the work that we do within a city context to try and ensure that we're meeting those sustainable development goals. What we do as designated cities is really we aim to lead by example and to reduce health inequalities. And we do that by putting health at the top of the agenda, if at all possible, with our policymakers and our commissioners. You can see here briefly just what our phase seven programs have been translated into for Belfast in particular. Every city looks slightly different. They use those six Ps as the overarching framework, and they're translated using a range of stakeholders into the priorities for the city. Our partners in Belfast Healthy City are the Public Health Agency, the Belfast Health and Social Care Trust, Belfast City Council, and the Northern Ireland Housing Executive. And with them, we aim to deliver on promoting healthy transport for the city, which we're going to talk more about today, greening the city, which we're also going to mention, community prosperity, and then the final two areas that we are steeped in are increasing knowledge and capacity building and maximising learning and knowledge. Key role for us here in Belfast Healthy Cities is to really pilot and test concepts in practice. And you're going to hear about some of those initiatives in just a moment. And we aim to do that by working in partnership with a wide number of stakeholders across the city, ultimately aiming for better physical and mental health for everyone. Where we live and the infrastructure of our cities and regions really does have a significant impact on our health. And some of these are known as the social determinants of health. You can see here that the WHO defines the social determinants of health as the conditions in which where we are born, grow, work, live, and age, and all those things that impact on our daily lives. Physical surroundings, so things like streets or footpaths, and we're going to talk about green spaces and open spaces, can really promote opportunities for people to be physically active and live healthy lives, but they can also hinder depending on the situation. Our physical surroundings can have a really significant impact, and when we look in cities, we're really keen to consider things like air pollution. And we know children in particular can be more vulnerable if you think about high levels of cars and other vehicles using diesel and petrol and other fuels, and the level that our children are at, you can understand that they are continually subject to those sorts of pollutants on a regular basis. Children are breathing more faster, the organs are still developing, so therefore it can have a bigger impact on them. Air pollution also, however, can impact on our older adults, so it can in fact cancel out some of the health benefits of going for a walk if our air is not good, and it can also really put people off. So it really is important that we look at this through a very multifaceted approach. When we think about green spaces, I think we all know and understand how beneficial they are for our physical, mental, and mental health. You know, things like helping us sleep better at night by having exposure to the sunlight, that we're feeling more relaxed and restored. Obviously, it's giving us the opportunity to be more physical and therefore helping our fitness and helping contribute to reduced obesity, reduced air pollution. So, however, that is all contingent on having those green spaces, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. And finally, environmental challenges. So, particularly in urban environments, but not exclusively, things like rising temperatures, flooding, extreme weather can again exacerbate existing illnesses and issues for citizens living in those areas. When we think about the environment, place, and health, they can all have a significant impact on our health and well-being. And in deprived areas, we do know that we can see a bigger impact. In areas of deprivation, children and communities can have higher rates, for example, of cardiorespiratory and other illnesses. And the environment that children are growing up in and living in can have an impact on their development. So things like limited access to fresh food can really have an impact. We did a study in recent years where we looked at a particular area within Belfast. And in that area, and it was a small area with a lot of residents living nearby, was one fruit and veg shop, one supermarket, and over 10 fast food takeaways. So you can understand sometimes the challenges that local residents have when trying to choose the healthier option. There can be fewer opportunities for regular physical activity in healing green spaces in very built up, overpopulated areas. And there can be higher exposure to unhealthy foods and sedentary lifestyles. So, what can we do? What we do in Belfast Healthy Cities is, as I mentioned, we can pilot and test initiatives to look at, well, what can we do to help our children, our older people, and all the residents of communities across the city? So over recent years, we have trialled a walking bus, which is really where groups of children who are safely supervised are walked to school in the mornings. What we do in Belfast Healthy Cities is we work with the school to identify the best route. We also work with an architect and design that route with a lot of factors in mind. We look at things like the postcodes of all the children coming from the most immediate areas. So where are children coming from and where does it make most sense to have a designated person to walk children to school? Some of the children could walk the whole journey. So, the parent can walk them to meet the designated walk leader, or maybe it's close enough to their front door. Or parents can have what we call a park and stride. So they can park close to where the designated person is rather than driving right to the school gate and causing further congestion. And then the children can walk the remaining way. We look at things like where are the pedestrian crossings, what is the safest route, are there footpaths, is there lighting, all those sorts of things. And we really try and support the school with developing the best route for them and their children. We'll do things like a travel survey, looking at how children normally travel to school so that we can measure what the impact has been when they start a walking bus. Provide very practical things in those early stages like high-vis vests, stop and go paddles, to get them up and running. And then we do, at the moment, provide ongoing support whilst we continue our pilot. And we can see significant benefits from our report in the first pilot phase in 2022, where we can see improved physical and mental health. Children are socialising with each other and parents on the walk to school, and they're arriving to school more attentive and ready to learn. And also early indicators which show some improved air quality. So those initial pilot findings found that 86% of parents found that walking buses helped encourage their child to walk to school. And 52% of teachers said that they created good habits for a healthy lifestyle. So some of that feedback has really helped us shape the next stage for our healthy transport plans, and particularly leaning into that teacher feedback about developing future habits for a healthy lifestyle. That's something we really want to try to foster. When children start thinking about active travel as their first form of transport from a young age, it's much easier to adapt to than when it is as we're adults and we're used to jumping in the car to go from A to B. We're then trying to change our habits and consider what are the options, and we're not familiar and we maybe don't have the confidence. If we start with children when they're young to help them think, well, how can I get there? Can I walk? Can I cycle? Can I wheel? If not, can I use sustainable transport like the bus and the train, or can I do a combination? So that's what we're looking to do in our active travel lesson plans. So that's the final phase of our pilot, is to really develop plans to go alongside the practical walking bus. Those are lessons that the teachers will then deliver to children in school. And it's talking about the messages about children's importance of looking after their own health and well-being and how active travel can really help that. There's a section on climate and health, so helping children start early, understanding those early messages about being responsible and their role and all of our roles in looking after the climate, because it's better for all of us in the long term to consider our environment and our role to play. And it's really then helping children understand the benefits for their own health. So they're walking more, it's good for them, it's good for the environment, and hopefully then consider it a win-win. And we're also then going to really look very closely at the impact. We're working with Belfast City Council to monitor the air quality in the areas where we have city walking buses. We're also looking at allocating each child a pedometer so we can measure their steps and look at how much more active they're becoming because they're walking to school. And we're going to be engaging with the schools and the residents to see really what the wider impact has been. We also have a wider agenda on active travel, and that's where we work with partners across the city. We can include the likes of the Department for Infrastructure and Queen's University, through to the Public Health Agency and other voluntary sector organisations like Sustrans and Eco Schools to really promote active travel across the city for citizens of all ages. Part of our role in Belfast Healthy City is to influence policies and plans. So let's think about building a city for people, for our health and well-being, as opposed to for cars and for transport. So really trying to reinforce that message of health at the top of all policy makers and decision makers' agendas. And we're also undertaking a study examining the prevalence of and challenges in relation to transport poverty. So although we can encourage active transport, we know that sometimes there are many barriers, and one of which can be the affordability of using public transport. So Belfast Healthy Cities is going to be looking at that in more detail. The next area I want to mention today is the Greening the City initiatives that we're involved in. And this is really a partnership approach to building capacity across the city. We in Belfast Healthy Cities have set up the Greening the City Advisory Group, and it includes members of Belfast City Council, Department for Infrastructure, Public Health Agency, Belfast Health and Social Care Trust, and voluntary sector partners. And that group really focuses on promoting green environments for all to increase physical activity and mental health. And they're working to encourage the use of green spaces across the city. So a really good example, which I've put a couple of pictures up, is the Belfast Urban Garden, fondly known as BUG. And that is a space that has been utilised for a period of time. We are awaiting development in an area right in the city centre of Royal Avenue. And for a period of time, whilst that development is getting planned and further developed, the group approached the policymakers and the decision makers to utilise the space for a community garden, and it was agreed and the funding was allocated to develop this garden space. But what it really now is a really lovely green space right in the city centre for local people and communities to use. It's run by a group of volunteers, conservation volunteers, and they plant a variety of plants and fruit and edibles, as well as vegetables and some flowers as well. And they've had groups of young people come down, and they've had older people, and they've also had people when they're out shopping use the space to come in and relax and benefit from that green space for a period in time. So it's really trying to think about how you utilise those green spaces in the best possible way for the benefits of all residents or people living and working in Belfast. And we also work with Brownsville in partnership with Queen's, and that's really looking at all the green spaces across Belfast and how they can be further maximised to help people's health and well-being. So part of what we identified through working with many of those stakeholders that I've already mentioned are that, yes, there's gaps and there's lots more to be done with the development of green spaces in Belfast. There's much work I'm sure every city can do But we also do have some really, really fabulous green spaces and parks and areas within the city. But sometimes people just simply aren't aware of them. They don't know how to access them. They don't know how close they are or who actually goes to them. They maybe don't have the confidence if they've never went before. So an initiative that we have developed is Green Health Maps. And really what this is working with community groups to help develop a map of their area. And it's a very simplistic tool and it really just demonstrates whatever area that they live in and what is in that area. We're really interested in Belfast Healthy Cities in the green. There's other things that are good for citizens' health and well-being that we're really keen to also plot. So we're working at the minute with a group in North Belfast as an example. And what we've done is we've went in and we've talked to groups of young people and we've said, well, what's in your area? And they've told us about some of the sports pitches that they maybe know about, or they've told us that they think that there's a boxing club or that there's other leisure facilities. We've spoken to groups of older people and they're maybe not as sure about what's in the area. They know of the park, but they don't know where there's benches. So, if they're going to be out walking for a period, is there somewhere they can take a break and sit down? Or if they're going to the park, is there a quiet space? They're not so interested maybe in the pitches, but they want to know, is there gardens and is there an area that they can sit and enjoy that space? Older people also said if they're going to be out, the things that they don't really want to see are things like, how do I get to the health centre? So when we're mapping it out, we're looking at, well, where's the health centre? Where are the library? Where's the public facilities like the toilets? Which is again something that people are really keen to know when if they're going to be out of the house for a period of time, how they can access those types of facilities. So we've worked with a number of areas to develop their own map shaped by them, for them, obviously working with urban designers and architects to develop the map in a way that's very user friendly for them. And we've had amazing and positive feedback, particularly for newcomer families who aren't familiar with the area and didn't know what was there. But also people have told us that they've popped it up on the fridge and they can now say, well, I can take that back street across that road and that gets me to the park quicker than I realized, so I'm more inclined to go. I didn't realize that there was another entrance to the park, so now I actually am more likely to use that. So all those types of feedback has been really useful to see that people are, if you give them the tools, that they may be more likely to use those green spaces in the city. Another area that we're developing within the Greening the City is our Healthy Places, Healthy Children teaching resource. We know that the places children learn, play, and live can either hinder or foster their ability to eat healthy and to exercise. So this is a resource that we've developed for schools and we've developed and refined it over a number of years. Resources can be either delivered to teachers, so we run teacher training days, or teachers can directly download it from our website if they want to just go ahead and deliver the program themselves. The teachers deliver it over 6 modules. You can see the main modules there highlighted on the screen. And really, the whole importance of the program is helping children understand the importance of the built environment to their health. So children will be encouraged through parts of these lessons to investigate and interrogate their own areas, look at their own school's estate and what's on their grounds. Are there green spaces? Is there polytunnels to plant and grow? Are there spaces where people can enjoy nature? And then encourage them to go outside, go out and about in their local area, and is it clean and tidy? And do they feel safe walking on the streets? And many of the children have come back with things like, cars are parked on the local streets right outside the school, so they can't use the pavement and they're walking onto the road, which makes them feel quite unsafe. Maybe there isn't litter bins, so therefore there's some litter on the streets. Maybe there's been some fouling of animals and it hasn't been picked up. So they gather this type of feedback and they not only present it back to the school and make recommendations, but we also encourage them to meet with their local elected representatives with their school's support. So they're talking about not only the challenges they see with their own community, but also some of the solutions. When you look at it through a child's lens, they can really sometimes come up with the most inventive ideas that are really helpful to shape an area that they are then more likely to use. So if children have been given a say and a role in shaping that playground, they are much more likely to engage with the space. Belfast Healthy Cities really wants us to consider health equity when we talk about green spaces and active travel. Because really, Not everyone will feel comfortable switching to active travel because there can be numerous barriers, things that we've already mentioned, like transport poverty and even access, things like lack of confidence, particularly when you think about cycling and cycling in a city environment. Some people maybe just don't have the skills and confidence to do that. And also, we really think attention needs to be given to areas that face health inequalities because many can face significant further barriers, such as, they don't feel that they have got safe green spaces that they can use. Maybe their streets and footpaths aren't safe for them to walk on or wheel and cycle, and maybe even lack of access to transport options. So the care zone that you can see referenced on the screen here today is an area in North Belfast that we have been working with over a significant period of time, carrying out various pieces of work. What we're really interested at the moment is the work of the community champions. So community champions are volunteers and they're exactly that. They champion their own community. And our experience has been that those community champions are the best representatives for the people in their area and are sometimes best placed to be able to further equip their local residents with the skills and knowledge to take better care of their health and well-being. So by investing in these community champions, they've been able to, and you can see some of their work there in horticulture. They've done some skills training in areas like horticulture and learning to grow. They've also done some autism awareness training. So they're out and about supporting parents, helping them get their children onto the walking buses, encouraging people to engage with their local green environment and taking responsibility for their own health. So those types of initiatives can be really, really useful in encouraging community prosperity and participation. And really, I'm just going to finish quite quickly on child-friendly places, because really this sits at the very heart of what we aim to do in Belfast Healthy Cities. It's all about creating an environment where children will live, grow, play, work, and thrive in a city that's good for them and their health and well-being. Belfast Healthy Cities is about all residents leading healthy, equitable lives. However, if we start with our children, we're most likely to see the best results. When we did a survey back in 2021 and worked with a wide number of stakeholders, a number of children across primary 4, 7, and years 8 and 10, children told us that they did want to use green spaces, but they wanted better access. So, they want to know how to get and how to make best use of those green and open spaces. And it's really important to have a degree of independence. So although we can have some lovely playgrounds designed by and for children, it's also really important children are given the opportunity to actually be independent, that they're not contained within a particular grey area, that they have the freedom to be able to climb and try different things and be independent. Children told us that they have a strong concern for cleanliness, so it's really important to them that the spaces they're using, if we're going to encourage them to use them, feel clean to them. And finally, the children have told us again and again that if we're going to ask them and their families to walk and cycle in the city to encourage better traffic management and less car congestion, we need better infrastructure. So they want to see the cycle paths, or they want to see pedestrian-free zone or pedestrian-only zones, car-free zones. And they want to see less traffic to enable them to do that. So it is possible. And we have our best assets and our children willing to do that if we can make those changes happen. So it just remains to say thank you so much for listening to my presentation today. For further information, there you can contact me at Belfast Healthy Cities. And I look forward to connecting in with the rest of the panel. Thanks so much.